we are live, but nobody is here. So we're waving at the future people that may join us, right?
Hello. Exactly.
Hello, future people. I just want like one person to show up and then we can get going.
Oh, you got your wish.
We got one person. Yes. Thank you for joining us, person. Okay, so today's episode, we've got several topics we want to go over, and then we will do Q&A. The two people have joined us. If you ask your question, you pretty much guarantee that we're going to answer it, no matter how crazy it is, because you're the only ones here, okay? You can only ask questions on YouTube or Facebook. Okay. Do you want to start us, Carolina? Or?
Sure. So some interesting stuff, some ridiculous stuff. Last week we talked about Title 42 and how a federal judge ruled that Title 42 was unlawful, something that immigration advocates, civil rights advocates have been saying from the start of the implementation of this Title 42, the Remain in Mexico policy. It was implemented by Trump and continued by the Biden administration inexplicably, but supposedly the pretext was to curb the COVID. It was all for COVID, but we all know that we read between the lines that wasn't the reason. So Title 42 essentially violated asylum rights for asylum seekers who were crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. And now a federal judge agrees that Title 42 was unlawful. So that is going to be removed sometime, I think, in December. But that leads us to some ridiculous news coming out of Arizona, of course, because in a lawsuit filed by the Attorney General, the Republican Attorney General, Mark Brnovich, he is claiming, along with the Arizona GOP leadership there, the CDC was unlawfully making certain carve-out exceptions for specifically for Haitian migrants under Title 42. And I find this lawsuit just ridiculous because they really say with their whole chest in this lawsuit that the Biden administration is acting favorably in their discrimination in favor of Black migrants, which, Curtis, I know you know how ridiculous that sounds. Yeah. The colossal mountain of evidence to the contrary.
Of Custom and Border Patrol agents on horses with whips to sort of contradict that version of events.
Exactly. I mean, and even in terms of asylum, the Haitian community is granted asylum at the lowest rate of any nationality, to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that those are the numbers for the Haitian community, which is just ridiculous because the GOP knows this, right? Mm-hmm. The AG knows this fact, and so that just makes the lawsuit that much more ridiculous. But they know that the Biden administration has not been sympathetic to immigrants or asylum seekers, much less Black migrants. They just want the same anti-immigrant rhetoric that we were getting from the previous administration, which, is not happening to an extent. But
I follow this user on Twitter, Alan Orr, who's an immigration attorney, former president of ALA, that has really been good at bringing to light all these expatriation flights. What are they called? The flights where we deport patients and we don't give them the same treatment that we give sometimes the Ukrainian and Russians who are just like showing up at the border and having these parole paths.
They are essentially put in these. It was like a massive expulsion of exclusively Haitian community, Haitian migrants in these flights. Sometimes I believe they were shackled. I think most individuals were shackled until they reached Haiti.
Right.
It was awful.
So Arizona is our least favorite state so far, right?
So far.
But the show just started. Okay. So, let me go to something I have here. Farm workers. For Thanksgiving's tomorrow, also known as Indigenous Peoples Day. But it's all about being grateful, and I just want to express that I am grateful for farm workers, okay? We would not have food without you. Thank you for your service. You got another one, or you want me to?
Oh, well,
Right.
speaking of just communities that are amazing, I am currently in Miami, Florida. So just speaking of farm workers and speaking of the Haitian community, it's the community that I was surrounded by, and so I am truly very thankful for that upbringing. I think it was something very special that South Florida shared. I am not going to deny the racism that was very much prevalent, but it was a privilege for me to be able to be surrounded by immigrant communities
Awesome.
most of my life.
Awesome. I did not have that privilege when I was younger. I grew up in rural Indiana, and we did not have too much diversity at all. Pretty
And
crazy.
if the Supreme Court has its way, well, where that's going to go.
Right. Okay, so I've got something. Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy had a press conference yesterday or the day before, probably in Arizona. That's a guess. It looked like Arizona in the background, where he's standing near the Mexican border, and he says that he demands that that Mayorkas, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, resign, or otherwise he's going to impeach him with use. That's what our Congress has time to do, is to impeach this guy.
Of course.
The
Number
funny
one
thing,
on their agenda.
right? The funny thing is Mayorkas has spent the last couple of years in his role appeasing Republicans and pretty much carrying on a lot of Trump policies. He's not done anything to make me happy. He's not. I shouldn't say he hasn't done anything, but for the most part, he's not listening to immigrant advocates, and he is listening to the Republicans, and they want his head. So I say, give it to him. You should quit, Secretary Mayorkas. You're not making anybody happy.
I mean, it's hard to be on the side where you're agreeing with Kevin McCarthy, but here we are. But it just really speaks to the disappointment that I think Secretary Mayorkas has brought to that position. It's disappointing, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So I got something else. If you are someone this is more likely someone is an Afghan who come in with parole and paid the $410 for the I-765 EAD employment authorization application. There is a lawsuit that's getting ready to happen, and you need to get with Greg Siskin to participate in that lawsuit, because you should not have had to pay that money. A lot of the Afghans applied for is it a waiver or exemption and got it, but the ones that didn't know about the exemption, that's not right that they took that money from you. So anyway.
And how much money exactly, when you say take that money, how much money in lump sum are we talking here?
Well, we don't know how many people are impacted by this. So it's $410, however many people they did it. But we do know, in another context, Secretary Mayorkas was able to squeeze $20 million out of Afghans, out of their community and their supporters and allies, who for humanitarian reinstatement, not humanitarian, humanitarian parole applications that were not adjudicated yet. So USCIS, man, they need to get their act together. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, they have questions. They have questions that they need to answer, which is just frustrating, because I feel like in the last ALA conference, correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, but we had some USCIS representatives that were very much quick to say, please don't sue us, talk to us.
Yes.
Talk to us first.
Right.
Which is so interesting, because my first question is, how?
How? Yeah. Talk to Emma.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Emma. Oh,
yeah.
Emma. I didn't know I dislike her more than Siri, but here we are too.
Here we are. Okay. Before we go to questions, did you have anything else?
So there is an interesting bit of news coming out. It's still pretty new, but there's congressmen who are putting together what I think is called the Fair Proceedings Act, it would be huge if this passes. It would guarantee legal counsel, lawyers for those who are in removal proceedings. There is specifically, I think it's making legal counsel available for children, individuals with disabilities, victims of abuse, of torture, violence, and all that. That would be historical, and that would be an incredible thing that Congress would do. Am I hopeful for it? I don't know. But I am very happy to see that kind of movement is happening, that kind of legislation is being prioritized, even if it is from congressmen in California, which is great. Right. Yay. But we need more.
The Fair Proceedings Act, that's what it's called.
Yes, I think it's the Funding Attorneys for Indigent Removal, the Fair Proceedings Act.
So when I first became an immigration attorney, which really wasn't that long ago, it was 2018, I guess, I was in an immigration court, and it was just a master hearing, and it didn't go that well. The judge was mean to me, and I didn't know how to react when the judge was mean, but I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't do as good as I probably could have, but I'm getting ready to leave the room, and this little old woman was chasing me, and I'll never forget this. And she's trying to hire me. And I'm just like, you just saw what I did. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm brand new. But the thing is, the majority of immigrants are not represented in removal proceedings, and they go very badly. If you go in there and watch, they go a lot worse than when people are represented. So
yes, it's so important. I mean, to think that something as basic of a right as due process, that's my opinion. I believe it should be considered a basic right. But to see that completely absent in legal proceedings with like children is infuriating. That to me is a level of inhumanity that we will. I don't know if we'll be able to rectify, but that is what this Proceedings Act will hopefully address, because I did see something specific to children, so that kind of made me feel a little bit better. But in general, all immigrants in removal proceedings, no matter what age or what circumstances, should be guaranteed legal counsel.
I agree. And going big picture for people that may not have been in America that long, if you're accused of a crime, I think it has to be a felony or something, you get a public defender. You do get a right to counsel.
Yes. If there is the U.S. criminal system is involved, then yes. Yeah.
But ironically, when you are in removal proceedings, you are not guaranteed a right to counsel, even though the consequence could be something like, removed to this awful place where you were escaping persecution, where you could lose your head or something, right?
And I mean, that's essentially what we saw. Speaking of the Haitian community, that is what happened. They were expelled. They had these massive expulsions, these flights. They just put all these Haitian migrants in these flights, returned them, and some of them had to flee within the same week that they returned, because they were facing the same dangers. Title 42 did not help at all. It is continuing to. We're going to see the damage that Title 42 had. We're going to be seeing that damage for a long time.
Right. Speaking of which, I see down here on the screen, there's our website where we talk about asylum a little bit. I'm going to ask this general question that I get a lot. I'm going to ask and answer. I get this question: can I seek asylum from Russia, from Iran? No, you can only seek asylum from within the United States, or if you present yourself at a port of entry, like Tijuana. And just so you know, presenting yourself at a port of entry is not necessarily going to go smoothly. I heard of an Afghan family that tried it in Tijuana recently, and they said, come back in 3 days. I don't know. I don't know what they're supposed to be doing on the streets of Tijuana for 3 days, but
imagine those that were affected to this Remain in Mexico policy who were just stranded there.
Right. There have been people living for years in Tijuana trying to figure out how to present themselves for asylum. So before you race there, realize that it's a challenge. So
it's a challenge, even though the asylum law does say you may present yourself.
And that's why I think Ken McCarthy's right. Secretary Mayorkas needs to find another job, replace him with somebody knows law. So that's all I had to talk about. Do you have anything else?
No, just looking out to see movements on our DV cases, which I'm sure that we have some questions about. But yeah,
Yeah.
no.
So I get questions from DV 2020 and DV 2021 selectees every day, waiting to find out about the appeals. We do not know when the Circuit Court for the District of Columbia will give their opinion. Okay. So that's the next step. There's nothing that can be done with your individual cases until we beat the Biden administration's appeal. And then for DV 2020, after we beat the appeal, hopefully adjudications can resume. For DV 2021, for the good luck plaintiffs anyway, we have to win summary judgment too. So we've got another step there for good luck plaintiffs. But I appreciate everyone's patience there. I might complain that I get 25 or 30 messages a day from DV 2020 and 2021, but considering there's thousands of you, that's actually not a bad thing. Most of you are very patient, and I'm grateful for that.
So, yeah, and I know we mentioned this last week. In these kind of things, it is a good thing that this is taking its time. It means that these judges are taking into account arguments that were said and they're taking their time with this information.
Yeah. If they just wanted to tell us to get lost, they could have done that a lot quicker, right?
Yep. No is one word.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty sure we have a negative question here, but I don't censor. So let's see what it is. What's the output of an attorney representation? Plaintiffs, you did a great and fair job, sir, but is there any benefits of attorney's representation while implementation? Did KCC take consideration of that? I don't know if you're KCC. So I know that you're a DV selectee, but I don't know if you're a DV 2020, 21, 22, 23. That would be helpful information here. If you are a DV 2022, which is my guess, and discouraged because of the outcome, I'm sorry. Okay.
I think this individual, they said they were a Kennedy plaintiff.
You saw that somewhere else?
Yeah, I think they had a follow-up. I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question correctly, but maybe this individual is wondering if they had legal counsel, if KCC took that into consideration. I'm not sure.
I'm not seeing where they said Kennedy. Are you seeing that?
I'm Kennedy plaintiff. Just want to be clear. Here we go.
Oh, it is a Kennedy plaintiff. Okay, great. So if you're a Kennedy plaintiff, you are most probably a Gomez class member. There were 5 Kennedy plaintiffs who were not Gomez class members because they were issued visas already and those visas expired. But most Kennedy plaintiffs, of the 1,000 families, most of them are Gomez class members. And I know what your question is. You want to know, do you have an advantage because you have an attorney?
That's what I thought he was asking.
Yeah,
what they were asking.
So Judge Meadow was very clear in his summary judgment order that Kennedy plaintiffs, or any plaintiffs that have representation, whether it's Mohammed, Fangjong, or Aker, they do not have priority just because they are represented by counsel or they are plaintiffs in lawsuits. But yes, you have an advantage. We've been fighting we would not have won summary judgment if we had just given up our hands and stayed home. After adjudication resumes, provided that we beat the appeal, you have our law firm to support you and guide you through consular processing. I cannot stress how important that is. I think statistics show, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's probably like 1 in 3 visa applications goes into AP, administrative processing, where they need something else. You really need an advocate on your side when things like that are happening. Or look at all the embassies that are closed, that are like, not necessarily closed. Some are closed.
Yeah.
But many
inexplicably, this office in this location is closed until further notice. I've definitely seen that.
Doing limited services, you need our assistance in helping you transfer that case, because KCC fights transfers for reasons I'll never understand. So you do need our representation and guidance in consular processing will be of value to you, and it's something you just have to wait and see. And if you don't think it's of value, just that's fine. You don't have to follow us anymore. But you are our client, so we're going to do what we can to help you as long as you are our client. Okay. Let me see what next question we have that's less confusing. I need an easy question, please.
Did Joe Manchin win the Senate?
Yeah, that was kind of depressing. Okay. Well, it's unfair that 60% of good luck complainers don't get an interview. What's the solution? I agree with you that that's unfair. What he's talking about, Carolina, is that there are over 20,000 plaintiffs in the good luck lawsuit, but Judge Mehta only reserved 6,914 visas. Some of those good luck plaintiffs will be able to get visas from the Ray case, though. So it's not as bad as you think.
Is there, like, do they take into account some sort of overlap or
no,
like for when they're shared amongst different cases?
No, these two judges just did a different approach to relief, and we'll just figure it out afterwards. But you ask what's the solution? There is no solution. That's what it is. Okay. We have asked in our summary judgment briefing, in our motion for summary judgment, we asked Judge Mehta to reconsider the amount of visas that he unused visas that he reserved, because we recognized a couple of errors that are really not his fault, but we understand how they happened. And we explained that to him. And if he finds those arguments compelling, then there's a chance that he will increase the number from 6,914, maybe up to 10,000 or something. But there's no way that all good luck plaintiffs are going to get interviews. So just understand that right now. So, okay. Daniel Suno says, hello, Curtis. This is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello, Daniel. I have your question, and I'm trying to find someone on our team to answer it. I have not forgot about you.
Oh, you know this person.
Yes, it's one of our clients. Okay. So no other questions? Come on. I think maybe we didn't market this today's live enough or something, because
as much as I want to say that it's a holiday week, I know it's not necessarily an international holiday, but
right,
things do really slow down this week.
Yeah, maybe a lot of our audience is in the U.S. I don't know. I don't have anything else. Okay, I get this frequently asked question, and I want to get this out. How long is long enough to wait before I file an individual mandamus lawsuit? Okay, this is somebody that's waiting on a USCIS petition to be approved, or they're waiting on a visa application to be approved. And what the answer is interesting, because you would think, oh, well, let me go see the case law on that. In the case law, you would quickly find that the Administrative Procedures Act says that the government cannot unreasonably delay an immigration benefit, or a process, which an immigration benefit is. And then you'll go to the case law, and they're doing this track analysis, track factor analysis. And that's from this case where they consider these 6 factors, and every judge looks at the factors and interprets them differently. So the case law is all over the place. We've got judges saying 3 to 5 years is reasonable. We've got other judges that say starting asking a lot of more like difficult questions of the State Department, to where they say, oh, no, we'll just give everybody a visa. We don't want to, talk to this judge. So here's how I want to answer this question. I don't have a rule of thumb on how long your delay is before it is unreasonable. I would say that the earlier you file your case, the less likely that we are going to be able to use that mandamus lawsuit to accelerate the adjudication of your decision, either your petition or your application. However, there's no harm except for the cost of trying it early. If it doesn't work, file another one a few months later. I know that's what rich people do. Rich people, not all rich people, but what I'm saying is I've seen people go to interview, they're in post-interview AP for a day, and they call an attorney and say, what is this post-interview AP? I can't put up with this. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
File a lawsuit. The government says, when the government attorney asks the State Department, hey, what's going on with this case? The State Department, the inquiry itself causes them to resolve the issue, and they issue the visa. So in cases where the inquiry itself causes the issuance of the visa so the lawsuit goes away, it doesn't really matter what the case law, the judge-made law is on how long of a delay is unreasonable. So I think everybody kind of has to decide that on their own. I know 6 months is a figure that a lot of people use, and I think that that's a fair figure. But if you are in post-interview AP, that's where you had a visa interview and your visa was not issued because of that dumb DS 5535 form, they're looking at your Facebook or something, there's no reason why that delay should be a day, in my opinion. I have no problem filing mandamus lawsuits immediately after a DS 5535 vetting AP, because if you don't, it's indefinite. You don't know when you're going to come out of it. Every day I hear from people that have been in AP since like 2019 or 2020, and they've just lost
longer. Yeah, even further. I think we have somebody that's been waiting over 7 years at this point.
Well, I'm talking about like they had the interview.
Post-interview AP. Right.
Yeah. I think me and you are working on a case that's pretty long, 2019 or something. But that if you don't challenge it, the State Department, you can't really count on them to look out for you. That's not what they're doing. Okay, they're not organized, and you can't. If you just think that like, oh, I'll just wait and everything will work out. Sometimes you just wait and it won't. So I do recommend mandamus lawsuits, even if you don't use us. There's other attorneys that do them. Some of them are more affordable even. So just explore mandamus lawsuits because they are leading to accelerated decisions that put families together or put people closer to their dreams a lot quicker.
And I think that this idea of not being able to define the word unreasonable is important because that's on purpose, right? There's a reason why those words are vague. There's a reason why there's room for these track factor analyses because a judge and a lawyer sure love those factor analysis tests, a good old factor, but it leads to all these different outcomes. It leads to judges approaching reliefs differently. So there is a lot of room for, unfortunately, for interpretation, legal interpretation there. So it like as Curtis said, I definitely would agree. It's what's unreasonable to you is when you decide to come forward with that mandamus lawsuit. But there are, unfortunately, those track factor analyses that judges take into account. I think there's some numbers that are included for immediate family relatives. I think the number thrown around is 180 days post initial filing. So there's recommendations. There's certain ideas of what is the time frame. But yeah, as Curtis said, the sooner you do it, the less hardship there might be, or not. Maybe there is hardship that you can bring forward.
I mean, Congress has communicated before that they think that visa adjudication for spouse or child of U.S. citizen or fiance should happen in 30 days, and for family preference categories, it should happen in 60 days. Right. So you're not being crazy if you sue after that amount of time,
right?
Because Congress has agreed with you. So.
Yes, that's right. The 30-60 rule. That's right.
Right. Okay. We did get a greetings here from Cameroon. Hello in Cameroon, Kennedy plaintiff. Go Kennedy.
Cameroon. Go Cameroon.
Oh, Are they playing in the World Cup?
FIFA related. I'm sorry, it's inappropriate.
It's okay. You can have a World Cup team.
I'm not watching it. I just know that they're in it.
Okay. Thomasina says, who determines how the reserved visas will be distributed? Who are those that going to be prioritized? Okay. The first, let's back up. And sometimes there's some confusion over how these visas will happen. The law says only consular officers can make decisions to issue visas. Okay. So I will not be deciding who gets a visa. Consular officers will be deciding. But you do ask a really good question, because consular officers are not who decides who is interviewed. That is decided by the embassy. Typically tells KCC for DVs how many slots they have open, and then KCC sends those cases. As we understand it from the government declarations for the reserved visas for DV 2020 and 2021, this will be a new approach, new space, because the State Department says that they have already deployed, that's the verb, deployed those cases to the embassies. And that sounds great, because it's like KCC is no longer involved in those cases, so we don't have to worry about KCC's inefficiency. But then you start thinking about the cases that were deployed to Kabul or Moscow. I mean, like, how did that work? Are deployed to Georgetown, even though Cubans can now interview in Havana. Are Iraq cases deployed to Doha or Beirut or something, even though they can now go starting in January. The Baghdad embassy is going to be open, supposedly. So there's going to be some quirks to work out, but the embassies, these cases have already been deployed to the embassies. They're just what's called inactive now. It takes a few lines of code or something to make them active. So if we beat the appeal, and for DV 2021, we win summary judgment also, for good luck. The State Department will go in, their IT people, they will make that code, and then all of a sudden everybody's CACs will start working again, and then everybody will be hopeful to hear from the embassy. I know on behalf of our clients, we will be contacting the embassies directly. That's one thing we will be doing for our clients, that, for the Kennedy plaintiff saying, oh, how do I have value being a Kennedy plaintiff? We will be doing that also. So
it's just, I think the biggest thing is advocacy. It's sucks that we have to be the ones communicating this when they should just, USCIS and such should just be doing their job. But it does help.
Yeah,
to have that advocate.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, yay, lawyers, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the Biden administration is fighting us. And I can't get the news to cover this because it doesn't fit in any of the popular narratives that the Republicans or the Democrats want to tell. Basically, we won several orders on behalf of immigrant plaintiffs. And Biden said, no, let's do what Trump wanted to do. And they're doing that in the courts without, the American people knowing really it's happening. You can't get Fox News to tell this story because they want to paint Biden as this pro-immigrant force. Right. And you can't get MSNBC or the liberal press to tell this story because they want to raise up Biden
from criticism.
Like he's a deity or something. And so, deity, is that the right word? I don't know. They want to say he's can do no harm. Right. So the American people don't even know what's happening with these appeals. So I see sometimes hashtags that say in the DV appeal, withdraw the appeal. And I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about because nobody actually knows that the Biden administration is appealing these victories for our immigrant plaintiffs, except for the immigrant plaintiffs and the very small immigration attorney community that's involved with it, and then a couple judges.
Yeah, no, and it's so frustrating to see then these ridiculous lawsuits coming out. And for example, the one we started at the top of the hour with Arizona, where they're trying to flip the rhetoric, the whole narrative of the Biden administration and
What's
immigration.
interesting about that lawsuit is about that because that's in the news. The news is choosing that narrative as being one that fits with like a story that they want to tell.
Yes, that's so true.
And sometimes the stories that are actually happening that are true, that are not that story isn't.
No, like it's true that the Republicans are shameless in their lawsuits, but that, the facts are the facts and they're not touching the facts.
Right. But it's just a little frustration I had. So, okay, we don't have any more questions, so I think we're just going to call it a day. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to say thank you to whoever this person is that I can't put their comment up right away, but they said we are an amazing team, so thank you so much.
Oh, they got a comment where you can't get it up. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you too.
Okay. Well, I'm going to end the podcast. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Happy Indigenous.
Bye, everyone. Be safe.